22 is a proclamation against Jerusalem. Let me give you some overview. For verses 22, 1 to 25, addresses the Assyrian siege of Jerusalem in 701 BC. You can read about this thing in 2 Kings 18, from verses 17 down all the way to chapter 19, verse 37. I'm not going to read because it is a very long one. In addition to the people's preparation for the subsequent Babylonian siege in 588 BC to 56 BC. So all these things is telling you about the preparation, right? But this the first time was on what the Assyrians did against Jerusalem, and they couldn't enter Jerusalem. They were at the doorstep, and God fought for them, and they confused the Assyrians, so they left, defeated. Okay. It's 1 to 4 of chapter 22. You know, the prophet Isaiah rebuked the people for excitement over the Assyrian retreat in 701 BC. They did not foresee that the Babylonians army will complete what the Assyrians have done in 56 BC, namely a destruction of Jerusalem. Let us read chapter 22, verse 1. You say, this message came to me concerning Jerusalem, the valley of vision. What is happening? Why is everyone running to the rooftop? What are they afraid of? Let us have an insight from Joel, chapter 3, verses 12 and 14. And I read from the New Living Translation. It says, let the nations be called to arms. Let them march to the valley of Jehoshaphat. There the Lord will sit to pronounce judgment on them all. So where they are, the valley of Jehoshaphat is also called the valley of vision. He said there thousands upon thousands are waiting in the valley of decision. there the day of the Lord will soon arrive. Let us, that is judgment, is being pronounced in this case. Let us turn our attention to Jeremiah chapter 21, verses 13 and 14. He said, I will personally fight against the people of Jerusalem, that mighty fortress, the people who boast, no one can touch us here, no one can break here. And I myself will punish you for your sinfulness, says the Lord. I will light fire in your forest that will burn up everything around you. So that is the warning God has given. That is why the prophet is asking the question, what is happening to these people? Why is everybody fleeing to the rooftops? If you are fleeing to the rooftops in your house, rather than living in the house, that means you are afraid of something. And what is it? That's what the prophet is saying. In verse 2, he said, the whole city is in a terrible uproar. What do I see in this revealing city? Bodies are lying everywhere, killed, not in battle, but by famine and disease. So here, the prophet is saying everything. It is not by what that people people are afraid of, right? But they are afraid of famine. There's no food because the city has been in siege by the Babylonians in this case. The rebellion city was full of feasting and drinking in response to the Assyrian retreat. They never foresaw the approach of the new threat from the Babylonian siege. That is, this happened in 5 86 BC. The people died not in the battle, but by famine. Let's take a look at Jeremiah chapter 14. Verse 18. If I, here Jeremiah, go out into the fields, I see people who have died of starvation. The prophet and the priest continue with their work, but they don't know what they are doing because they have not taken this thing to God, right? So God's hand is not in this. They plan their own thing, they store their own food and all these things, preparing for war. We'll come to that. Without having an audience with God, we are always told as children of God to surrender to God everything totally and ask God for guidance. That is what these people did. They were trying to do the thing on their own, thinking that they can ignore God and then, do whatever they want. And we know the Babylonian siege left the inhabitants of Jerusalem cut off from needed agriculture resources, and in a terrible situation and health crisis, all of them. Verse 3, he said, all your leaders have fled. They surrendered without resistance. The people tried to slip away, but they were captured too. You see, the leaders, instead of leading the people to the wall, they planned their escape. But very unfortunate for them, they were pursued and captured. Let's take a look at 2 Kings chapter 25 from verses 3 to 6. This thing happened in the 11th year of Zedekiah reign. The famine in the city had become very severe, and the last of the food was entirely gone. He said, then a section of the city wall was broken down, since the city was surrounded by the Babylonians. The soldiers awaited for nightfall and escaped through the gate and between the two walls behind. The king's garden. They then headed towards the Jordan Valley, but the Babylonian troops chased the king and overtook him on the plains of Jericho, for his men had all deserted him and scattered. They captured the king and took him to what? The king of Babylon in Rablah, where they pronounced judgment upon Zedekiah. He was killed, actually. You see, this is pathetic. People who are hurt, God is have taken as their precious possession and inheritance. They are now running for cover from their enemies because they took the thing into their own hands. God never protect them. They allow their enemies to dominate and conquer them and oppress them because of what? Their rebellion and their sinfulness towards God. Verse 4, he said, that is why I said, leave me alone to weep. Do not try to comfort me. Let me cry for my people as I watch them being destroyed. You see, this is the true prophet. As the calamity came to his people, he was crying. You feel pity. He felt distraught of their pride that they are facing. He is not rejoicing, even though he's not part of the calamity which had before them, because God was protecting him from the calamity while the people had been subjected to that. So instead of enjoying his privileges, he was rather mourning in sackcloth with ashes covered his skin, and what? Joining in what? The weeping, shedding tears for his people. Because all along, I think he was saying that I told you all this calamity coming to you, but you didn't listen to me. And here is it now. You could have said that and rejoice and leave them to their this thing. But there's a true prophet, that's not what he did. He will still be pleading their case and weeping, just like Moses did, just as Jeremiah did, and all the true prophet others, like Samuel and others, did for his people. So leave me alone to weep as I mourn the victims and the decimation of his people. Let's take a look at Jeremiah chapter 9, verse 1. It is a parallel what Jeremiah went through at the time. If only my head were a pool of water and my eyes a fountain of tears, I will weep day and night for all my people who have been slaughtered. Verse 5, he said, oh, what a day of crashing defeat. What a day of confusion and terror brought by the Lord of hosts upon the valley of vision. The walls of Jerusalem had been broken, and the cries of death echoed from the mountain sides. You see here, Jerusalem walls were broken by the Babylonian army, who breached them, the security, with what? Battling rams. As you can see from 2 Kings 25, verse 4. I'm not going to read that one. But let's take this thing at Lamentation chapter 2, verse 2. He said, and I read, without mercy, the Lord has destroyed every home in Israel. In his anger, he has broken down the fortress walls of beautiful Jerusalem. He has brought them to the ground, dishonoring the kingdom and its rulers. Verse 6. Elamites are the archers with their chariot and charioteers. The men of Kir hold up the shields. If you could recall, in Jeremiah, in Isaiah chapter 21, verse 2, we talk about these people, the Elamites. They live northeast of Babylon, and they were an arch rival of the Babylonians, as we saw in Isaiah chapter 21, verse 2. And they will also play a key role, a role later in the destruction and defeat of Babylon. We know you can refer about this in Jeremiah 49 from 34 to 39. Let us have some overview about Kir. The land of Kir is where the Arameans are said to have originated from. It is also the place where Tiglath-Pileser III of Assyria, when he captured them, that is the Arameans, that is where he damned them. He took all of them to that side. He took the Aramean captive after he had taken the city of Damascus and conquered the kingdom of Arms Damascus. We know from 2 Kings 16, verse 9, it said the king of Assyria attacked the Aramean capital of Damascus and led its population away as captives, resettling them in Kir. He also killed their king, Rezin. We can also read about Kir in Amos chapter 1, verse 5. Somebody will ask where Kir is situated. Kir is situated east of what? The Euphrates River. Because from the east of the Euphrates River, then you'll be entering from there to the northern what? Syria. Let's go to verse 7. He said, the chariots fill your beautiful valleys, and charioteers storm your gates. So here, there are two things you have to know about the valley, the beautiful valleys, where the chariot went, and the charioteers. It is Kidron and Hinnom valleys. That is how they were called. They were located at the eastern and southern side of Israel, respectively. Kidron is a ravine east of Jerusalem, as I said earlier, leading to the Mount of Olives. Traditionally identified by three regions, the Jewish, the Christian, and the Muslims, at the Valley of what? Decision, the place of final judgment. As you can read it from Joel chapter 3, verses 2 and 12. in the New Testament, you can also read about Kildare from John 18, verse 1. And I read, he said, Jesus crossed the Kildare Valley with his disciples and entered the grove of olive trees. That means from the Kildare Valley, you enter Mount of what? Olives. And also Gethsemane, where Jesus went and prayed. Okay, so it's a very distinct area, the Valley of Kildare. The Hermon Valley is also what? Near the wall of Jerusalem in the southern side of it. But here, the people also dump things. They dump every garbage over there. Let's in Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 32, the Hermon Valley is also called the Valley of Slaughter. And I read, he said, what? Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 32, he said, so beware, says the Lord, when that garbage dump will no longer be called Top Health or the Valley of Ben Hinnom, but the Valley of Slaughter. They will bury the bodies in Top Health until there is no room for, there is no more room left over there. So my brothers and sisters, we are, we'll end over here with our Bible studies in Isaiah verse 21, verse 7. It's unfortunately that beginning, we lose a lot of time finding how to use a new system like this. But all they say, it's good. We keep on learning new technologies this time of the pandemic. It's good to have a system like this with us, and we have to all learn to effectively and efficiently use it. So maybe next week, things will be better than today. We have a long time of chat. So until we meet next week, stay safe. Practice safety practices. Wash your hands regularly. Sanitize your hand. Wear your face masks.
Sorry, before we go, maybe anybody have any question you want to have or any comment, please, before we go quickly.
Okay, I'm ready. Is there any question that anybody want to ask? From what you have learned so far.
I just want to say thank you for your time. To be honest, I think we started a bit late today.
Yes.
So I know once we go into questions, then it's going to take us, it's going to take longer time. I'm thinking maybe we can leave that to next week. Hopefully,
okay.
Yeah, hopefully we can start on time, and
okay.
If we can start by 7 o'clock on the dot next week, and I think whatever we do to like 7:30, 7:40 should be okay. Then we'll do question.
Okay.
To round it up.
All right. I agree. Anything which you have to improve the situation, I'm for it. Okay, there's no problem with that. Because if you ask questions, that will let me know, help me to understand, know that you have thought.
That's why we're coming to this platform, so that people can actually interact. Very important. Yeah,
that is
true. It's very important. What you have read so far.
Yeah,
there are certain things that we are going to learn later on, which is going to tell you that Paul wants us not to abuse grace, right?
Yeah.
We don't have to abuse grace. And I will explain it during that time when we come today. Okay, so until next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Take good care of yourself. And God bless you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Very welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.